Product videography is one of the best things you could do while keeping away from other people in times like these. So over the last few months, I've been shooting lots of product videos here at home in my living room. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you 5 things you should get when you wanna also shoot your own product videos at home. And if you don't have a lot of budgets, these are the things you can really afford. And let's get into the video and start with the first one. So let's get something out of the way first. There's 3 essential things you need for shooting a good product video. There's a camera or some sort of device you can record on. If you don't have a fancy camera, you can also use your phone. I shot a lot of commercials just on my phone, so there's no excuse if you don't have a good camera. Then I think the most important thing is lighting. You can get cheap lighting nowadays, some cheap LED lights for like 50 to 100 bucks. And then there's the third thing, which is like a set you can place the product in. Could be a table, could be a nice little backdrop you use. There's endless possibilities, but these are the 3 things you basically need to get a good product video. And if you don't have any budget for lighting, I have a small little trick for you at the end of the video, so stick around for that. So one of the most important things in your videos is movement. This can usually be achieved by having a slider, but they can be really expensive. So it's enough if you're on a budget to have a cheap tripod. The more expensive tripods you can tilt and shift around very smoothly because they have nice fluid heads, but we don't really need that for that. We can create some movement in post. So if you don't have that much money to spend, just get a cheap tripod like a GorillaPod or something, and just make sure the camera is steady, because you just can create some movement in post. So if you go to Premiere Pro and you just zoom in, just create 2 keyframes and then zoom in on the object, can be really effective. Or you can just pan from left to right, which can be also really nice. So you don't need that much fancy equipment for that. Another thing we can easily create movement is this. It's called a Lazy Susan, and this is basically just a food plate. You can get this for really cheap, like 5 or 10 bucks. This is a manual one, so you just place the item in the middle here and you can just rotate it. And it creates really these nice movements where you can make the product spin on itself, so you can see it from every angle. And there's also electric ones, which I will link down below. They're also like pretty cheap. There's like one for like 20 bucks and there's a more expensive one for 100 bucks. But these are really affordable options. If you don't have that much money to spend, just get this manual one and you can get that for 5 bucks literally. And it really ramp up your production value if you have like the spinning object. Another thing that can really make your video stand out is animation, and you don't need really fancy equipment to make some cool animations. You don't need a camera robot or anything. What really can help you there is masking. So I don't know if you saw my MacBook commercial, but I did a really simple animation there where the MacBook was opening up, and I did this all in post-production. I didn't use any tricks for that. I just filmed the MacBook still open and then did all the rotation where the screen was opening in post-production. And I did this by masking around and just rotating the screen. And it was just so simple. You can do that easily in Premiere Pro. And what really helps is if you have like a black background, just get a backdrop in the same color as your background, and it will just help you with the masking and just makes it way easier to do. And I use this technique in a lot of videos, especially in the iPhone video, where I just mask around the iPhone and then I had it on a transparent background, and I can just like easily manipulate it and rotate it the way I want it, and it just gives you a lot of freedom to do your animations. And it's really simple. Just mask around the object and then you can animate it easily. What also can make your video stand out is stop motion animation. Stop motion animation can really ramp up your production value because first, you get better quality because you have a higher bitrate with the photos. And second, you can do things that wouldn't be possible if you just film a video. Stop motion animations are not that common in product videos, but they're really simple to do. They just take a little time to do, but once you get it right, it can really ramp up your production and make your video stand out from the competition. One of the coolest tricks I used on a recent product video is using my laptop screen as a background for my video. How I did this is I put a mirror over top of my laptop and then place the product on the mirror and then played some royalty-free video in the background. I used some dripping water because I shot a cologne video, which could be really nice for a background, or you can use nature videos. Just make sure that they're royalty-free. You gotta make sure that the product is not too big. If the product is bigger, you wanna use a bigger monitor or even your TV as a background. But this can give you a lot of creativity with your background, and it's really a simple thing to do. You can pull up anything you want in your background without having an actual set, and it really makes your videos look really cool with not that much effort. Another really important tip is use the stuff that you already have at home. Your set doesn't have to look super fancy because you're shooting in your living room anyways. No client is going to see how it looks. The most important thing that it has to look good in the video. I used a ton of stuff that I found in my living room here. I used this glass to have a nice reflection on it from my shelf here. Then I used these papers here to make something higher, to raise something. Just want you to understand that it doesn't have to look fancy, it just has to work. One thing, if you want to buy one thing that really helped me with rigging stuff, was this little suction cup here. I used this to put this on a tripod and then put my phone there and to film the phone. But you can put anything on there. I even put my MacBook on there. It's really strong, and I'll link it down below. And it's really useful if you want to rig stuff somewhere and you want to mask around it. On a black background, it's really easy to mask around it, and it's not that hard. So I really would recommend this suction cup with the friction arm. It's a really helpful tool if you want to rig stuff. Now the last tip I'm going to give you is about lighting. I know that lighting can be a little tricky and can be also really expensive. The good lights can be really expensive, but there's also a ton of cheap options out there. So if you don't have any budgets, you just have to use the light that's available to you. I shot a product video where I just used daylight coming in from my window, and I just diffused it with my curtains or with a little diffuser. So there's no lighting involved, just the light is coming in through my window. Then I would recommend you, if you have a little money, there's cheap tube lights you can get. There's options $20 to $50 or even $100. And if you want to get an RGB light, they can spend up to $300, $400. I link some of the options down below, but tube lights really helps you if you shoot a lot of bottles or glass. It really helps you get those nice edges, and it gets that stripe of light on the bottle, which I really like. So if you shoot a lot of bottle commercials, I recommend getting a tube light. And you also can add diffusers for that, so you can add that soft light to it. And if you don't have a lot of space, I really would recommend those tube lights because they don't take up a lot of space, and you can add diffusers a little bit. But if you have like those big soft boxes, it can take up a lot of space and you're not as flexible. Also, another good thing about those tube lights, you can easily wave them around. I used that in my iPhone video where I just waved the tube around, and it can really create some cool effects with that. So I really am a fan of those tube lights. And also those tube lights sometimes look good in the shot. I had, for example, that tube light behind my MacBook where I shot that MacBook commercial, and it just looks good where there's like a bar of light behind it. Don't mind it in the frame. Like with other lights, like with this big softbox, you wouldn't want to have them in the shot. And here's this little trick I have for you at the end of the video. I used this in a recent commercial where I shot a glass in a whiskey glass, and usually you light glass from behind, but I didn't have any spotlights available. So you want to have a spotlight shining onto the background, but I didn't have that. So what I used for this is I created a Photoshop document where I just painted a circle of white on a black background, and I put this on my MacBook screen, and I put the glass in front of my MacBook screen, and I used that as a backlight for my glass lighting. It just worked phenomenal, and I just lit it a little bit with the tube lights I mentioned you earlier from the front, but the backlight really what made that video look good. You want to have a spotlight behind the glass, but I didn't have any spotlights here, so I just used my MacBook and the Photoshop document to create this spotlight in the back. So this is a really cool tip for you. Let me know if that was helpful for you. As I said before, you can use your MacBook screen for a lot of things, but this was really my favorite one. I really hope those tips were helpful to you and can use them in your own videos. You don't need fancy equipment to create something cool. If you want to check out the products that I mentioned, so you can check out the links below and you can purchase them and get a small commission. I would really appreciate that. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed and you like my videos, please subscribe. I'm putting out more content weekly, and I see you guys in the next video.